Hi, everybody. This is Gerald Orlees, and today I have Kylie from Treasure Valley Rossiter. And Kylie, thanks for being here and taking time out of your schedule. So,
Of course. I appreciate you putting this together and happy to be here.
yeah. So, I'd like to have you share with our audience a little bit about who you are and what got you interested in Rossiter. And maybe you can continue a little bit with your training and how long you've been doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've always been very interested in my own personal physical health. And right around when I graduated high school, was looking to get into college, thought that some sort of career in physical health, exercise, human movement would be something that I wanted to do. So ultimately pursued a master's degree in exercise science. And while I was finishing my master's degree, I was working as a personal trainer. And I was doing a lot of networking, a lot of outreach with the community, trying to get people in to personal train with me. And doing that, I met Ellen Argo, who is the owner of Treasure Valley Rossiter, and met her in a one-on-one business meeting. All of a sudden, she was like standing on me, manipulating my connective tissue, and I left feeling so good. And I became a client of hers for quite a while, dealing with primarily like upper body, neck and shoulder tension, neck pain, things like that. And at some point, she said she was hiring, and I said, sign me up. I want to learn how to do this. So Ellen is the only person in Idaho who is certified to train other people in the Rossiter stretching technique. And it's about 70 hours over the course of several weekends to learn all of the techniques. And then I began practicing on people, had a fairly successful Rossiter clientele. I took a little break to pursue a career in cardiac rehabilitation with the hospital system. Ultimately found out I don't really love our healthcare system. It doesn't work for a lot of people. So I came back to Rossiter. I've been here for maybe a year and a half now, again, just trying to build up my own clientele and ultimately help people with their own connective tissue journey.
That's great. Now, can you share with our audience a little bit more about what roster is? Sometimes you're working with connective tissue, working on muscles. People, Ellen was stepping all over you. What exactly does that mean? And maybe you can also differentiate a little bit from other body work healing modalities that some of our audience members have heard, such as maybe just like deep tissue massages or lymphatic massage versus rolfing, just maybe hone
Yeah.
in on what exactly is roster and to someone who's completely new to it and they have no idea what it is other than it starts with the letter R.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good question. And I think it's probably better to back up a little bit and really dive into what the connective tissue is in our bodies. What is fascia? When we talk about fascia, what does that mean? And it's a very tough, very durable connective tissue in our body that weaves its way in between every single cell. It connects skin to fat, fat to bone, bone to muscle. Every single cell in our bodies is outlined in this fascia. And healthy, smooth fascia should glide smoothly across itself, across neighboring surfaces. It should allow for communication of nerve signals. It should allow for healthy delivery of lymph, blood flow, nerve communication, all of that. When our fascia is not quite that healthy, when it's not in its ideal state, it can get adhered. It can form what we might call knots. It can get sticky and sort of grab onto surrounding areas. And then that can lead to restricted range of motion. It can lead to chronic pain. It can even affect digestion, our mood. All of that is affected by this fascia. These little adhesions, they can form through a lot of different ways. Gravity, just aging, getting older, having the wear on our bodies can form these adhesions, but also things like stress, trauma, mental or physical trauma, lifestyle, poor nutrition, posture is a big one. This 21st century lifestyle we have is not super conducive all the time to healthy fascia. So just as we go through life, we accumulate these little knots. And the best way through the Rossiter system is to undo these knots is with compression and friction. So if you come in and see a Rossiter practitioner, we're going to use our feet and we're going to find those areas that have knotted apply compression with the foot, and then the client provides the friction through a range of motion. So that really is what makes Rossiter stand apart from other modalities, is the movement underneath the compression of the foot. And together, that compression and that friction, it just kind of creates this shearing effect that loosens the adhesions and restores the fascia to that healthy, gliding, communicative flow.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and for all the audience members, I actually received Rossiter treatments from Kylie, and in essence, a lot of my calves are very tight, my hamstrings, a lot of around the IT band, just my legs are very tight, and I've lost a lot of flexibility. And so when I'm in a session, she's actually having me place on a mat in a certain position, and she's compressing the muscles with her body weight at the point of contact of her foot. And as she's applying pressure, then I am moving, imagine I'm moving my muscles. So if, let's say there's a knot in my bicep, it's like putting pressure here. And then I'm moving the bicep side to side, left and right, forward, it's going forward, backwards. And from there, the knot gets worked out. And in doing so, I'm assuming, maybe Kylie, you can confirm, the fascia is becoming smoother and able to glide better. Is that a good interpretation of what you just said?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of times too, when the fascia has gripped on really tightly, it can, people talk about muscles being offline, and sometimes that happens when the fascia grips certain muscle fibers and keeps them unable to be recruited when the action is being performed. So performing the movement, engaging the muscle under pressure, it loosens the fascia and allows all muscle fibers to rejoin and become free and available for recruitment, allowing for stronger, more powerful completion of the muscle's range of motion.
Nice. Now, a lot of individuals may initially think of or hear about that it could be helpful for pain. Can you explain a little bit? We'll start with the level of pain. If someone has pain in a particular region, or maybe throughout the body, how does Rossiter work in terms of working at the fascia? How can that potentially provide some relief?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Pain is tricky. Pain is hard. We know that something is wrong in the body, but we're not often very good at understanding or tuning into what's wrong or where the issue is. We just know that there's pain somewhere. And a lot of times, pain is not actually the origin of the issue. It might be the opposite side of the body that's causing the opposite side, excuse me, the opposite side of the body that holds the tension and pulls things so tightly that the pain is signaling in the opposite region. So, for example, I had someone come in yesterday, just putting on a sock, something very typical every day, reaching down, putting on that sock, it triggered something terrible in through his glute and lower back. And so instead of working immediately in the lower back and glute region, we actually worked the inner thigh of that same leg, because again, if that inner thigh is held so tightly, it won't give the glute and outer hip room to move through. So just by loosening that inner thigh, we did a little bit of hamstring work, and it calmed down really pretty quickly. In 15 minutes, it was from a level 10 down to a level 3. So it works really powerfully and can reduce pain pretty significantly in a very short amount of time. And while the fascia might tighten up initially, afterward, with enough sessions, it can be loosened permanently and really help people get out of pain they've been carrying for a long time.
Yeah. So this individual is carrying pain for a long time, seeing a tremendous decrease going from a level 10 to level 3. And usually, how many, I know it'll vary from client to client, but what's a good average, or what's a range number of sessions someone like this individual could benefit from? Is it, 3 sessions, 10 sessions, 20 sessions, where they'll be able to, and what happens in that process over the course of multiple sessions? Is it where the body is now starting to retrain itself, where it's not allowing itself to develop those knots? Like, can you tell us a little bit about that dynamic over the course of whatever number of visits you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So most people will notice a significant improvement in their baseline levels of chronic pain after 3 to 5 sessions. If there's not a noticeable and long-lasting improvement from baseline after 3 to 5 sessions, at that point I might start referring out to other people. Maybe it's a nutrition issue, maybe it's a toxicity, or maybe there's a chiropractor. I'll start to recommend they seek other avenues. But if the issue is in the tissue, 3 to 5 sessions is going to bring their baseline. They're going to see huge improvement in their baseline. And then after that, some people 3 to 5 sessions is all they need, and then I never see them again. And I hope they're doing well out there. Some people choose to remain regular with their sessions for maintenance or prevention. And sometimes I'll see people maybe once every 6 months. They'll kind of have a flare up and come in, get it resolved, and then I'll just see them occasionally throughout the year. But my understanding of what happens is that as we work this fascia, as we compress and shear through the friction, that it loosens these knots layer by layer. They open up, they provide space, and they resume their typical properties of that smooth, healthy glide. And so with regular sessions, or just with enough sessions in a short amount of time, the fascia can go from being all knotted to smooth and gliding. And then, life happens. Nobody's ever stress-free. Maybe an injury happens, and then the fascia might get knotted. I think sometimes people who have chronic knots might be predisposed to re-injuring that, occasionally in times of stress, or, whatever's going on in their life. So in that way, regular maintenance and prevention can be really helpful in just keeping the body smooth and open as we navigate this crazy life we're living.
Right. Okay, that's great. And can you talk a little bit more about the fascia? Because I think there's probably just a little bit more that can be stored in there, in terms of, while many people may first seek a Rossiter practitioner and go work with you for certain pains physically, there's probably a lot more being stored in the fascia. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and then how that can overall help, the person as a whole? Because obviously we can experience physical trauma, have physical pain. We can have emotional traumas, emotional pain. We can have biochemical or nutritional deficiency trauma and have a cellular damage leading to pain. But yeah, can you talk a little bit more about what's going on really at the fascia, just going deep into that aspect, and what have you seen clinically, how people can even transform?
Absolutely. Fascia is fundamental to our body's functioning, and because our body and our mind are so connected, the fascia is also fundamental to our mind, our emotion, the way we move through life, just physically, spiritually, emotionally, all of it. It all comes down to the fascia, in my view. Fascia really does function as the roots of a tree. It webs its way through our bodies and provides nutrient transportation. And we've all heard that, trauma is stored in the body. And so I think the link to really understanding how and why what we experience, what happens to us, the way that's held on in our bodies is because of this fascia. Maybe we experience some trauma and our body remembers. I think the fascia tightens, or perhaps there's an inflammation response due to that flight or fight. When our nervous system is increased, when that sympathetic nervous system is online, our fascia tightens. It prepares us for movement. It prepares us for survival. And that chronic inflammation, that chronic state of fight or flight, can absolutely impact our fascia and bring it from that state of healthy, smooth, and glide into stuckness, into stickiness. And so, I'll be working on people and all of a sudden they'll have an emotional release. Tears might be shed. Most of the time, not because of the discomfort, but because something's been unlocked. I've experienced this in my own body where maybe I'll find myself kind of stuck in a circle of self-doubt or brain fog or fatigue or anxiety, and just have a Rossiter session, not even not even necessarily let the coach know that I'm going through something, but I'll leave feeling much more centered, much more calm. The anxiety calms, the self-doubt decreases because it can be held in our body's physical tissue. So releasing that physically can absolutely affect our mind, emotion, our mood, and pave the way for new pathways to be created so we don't have to hold on to, the ways we were wired in the past.
Oh, that's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that information. So a lot of individuals think of Rossiter as a way to just get knots out of the muscles or a way to have pain lessened. And it goes deeper than that, as you just explained. It goes
Mhm.
to helping them transform and release stored emotions. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. I definitely understand it's, sometimes it could be tears of release of certain
Mhm.
emotions, but definitely there's the aspect of going through the treatment and understanding that we have to power through some of these issues, or we have to be conscious of the intent of letting things go
Mhm.
while it's stuck in our tissues. So I appreciate you going through that.
Yeah,
Is there
absolutely.
is there anything you'd like to share with our audience in terms of why you personally feel that everybody should be receiving roster treatments, and what can it do for their, not only their health, but how they live from day to day and their outlook in life? Anything that you see that can just help them at the core with what they're trying to achieve in life, whether it's just to eliminate pain or improve mobility, flexibility, feel more comfortable in their body. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, all of that, absolutely. And oftentimes people come to Rossiter because they feel stuck. And I think that's a good indication. If people are out there feeling stuck in their life, there's probably a reflection of that somewhere in the body, that something in the body is stuck too. And so we live in a really cool time where there are so many different tools to help us move forward, to help us create the life that we want. And if there's still a level of feeling stuck, if something's not working, if you feel like you're doing all the things and are still trapped, maybe it's in the body. Come on in. We'll figure out what fascia might be stuck and open that up. And then you might have increased opportunity, increased options, and increased capacity to see these options. Uh, so it really, I think, creates an opportunity for people to move through stuckness and into empowerment and freedom.
That's great. All right. So for our viewers, if they're looking to find you and schedule a Rossiter session with you, where can they find you? Where can they go?
Yeah, our website is treasurevalleyrossiter.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook, Treasure Valley Rossiter. So any of those are great places. Our number and email address are on the website. You can text or call, and if not me, then someone of my coworkers will get back to any callers or texts through that line.
Perfect. Excellent. Everybody, if you're watching this on our website, you're going to see down below an actual link to their website, and go ahead and reach out to Kylie for more information and schedule your next Rossiter session. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Thanks,
Thank
Kylie,
you
for
so
being here.
much.